In this video, I'll show you how I meal prep like a chef while eating fresh, delicious meals all week long and never repeating the same recipe twice.
Prepping like a chef is about prepping ingredients, not meals. It means not eating the same meal over and over. As they say, variety is the spice of life. After heating the oven, I start by peeling and cubing 2 sweet potatoes, a bit of neutral oil and salt, and into the oven it goes. They will cook at 425 degrees Fahrenheit or 220 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. The sweet potatoes will be used in at least 2 dishes. During this meal prep, I make cooked ingredients, prep raw ingredients, and make sauces. After everything is prepped, I'll show you how I use the ingredients for meals throughout the week, and wait until you see how quickly the meals come together. In order to make this meal prep as quickly as I can, I start by cooking the items that take the longest to cook. I start by roasting sweet potatoes, and now I'm moving to tempeh. The tempeh gets cubed and dredged in my favorite barbecue sauce. So how do I decide which foods to prep? I started by determining which foods I'd like to eat this week. Factored into this decision is which foods are in season, what I may have an abundance of, and which food items are inexpensive right now. Separate the pieces the best you can to get the best roast on all sides of the tempeh. The tempeh goes into the oven and cooks for 30 minutes. Now I'll move on to the stove-cooked foods. I'm going to stove-cook lentils and quinoa. The lentils are used for 2+ dishes as well as the quinoa. The brown lentils are washed and then go into a medium pot with a lot of water. I won't salt these because salt can toughen the lentils. I then cook them on a simmer for 20 minutes. Once I know which 5 meals I'm wanting to eat this week, I then break them down by ingredient and double up on ingredients when possible. Here's an example. I wanted to make a lentil curry, so I decided to make extra lentils to add to the warm quinoa bowl. Also, I'll be chopping some fresh, raw, sweet red peppers. I'll use the peppers in the large salad that we'll eat one night, and they'll also go into the peanut noodle dish that I'll be making later in the week. Different dishes, but many of the same ingredients. For the quinoa, I start by giving them a really good rinse in cold water. This will help them to be less bitter. The quinoa goes into a pot with an equal amount of water. Then I add salt. They will simmer covered for 20 minutes. I leave them on the stove afterwards so that they absorb all of the water and become fluffy. After the lentils and quinoa go on, it's time to prep the tofu. I like to use extra firm or firm tofu for most meals. This tofu will be used multiple times throughout the week. If you've noticed, I did not press the tofu with a block, cans, or a tofu press. I always freeze my tofu before using. If you haven't yet tested freezing your tofu, I highly recommend that you try it right away. It's a serious game changer. Not only does it really improve the texture of the tofu, but it can then be squeezed to remove the liquid without the tofu falling apart. I add neutral oil, salt, and some garlic powder, which is how I really love my tofu. I usually roast my tofu until the edges get a bit crispy, but I won't do that for meal prep. I want them to be cooked but still be a bit soft. This way they won't dry out in the fridge during the week. The tofu cooks for 25 minutes. The roasted sweet potatoes and tempeh are done. I let them cool a bit and then into the fridge they go. I think it's important to remember the goals here. For me, they are to be able to make quick meals that are mostly healthy and to possibly save some money. So prepping ingredients that can be used more than once definitely saves time. If I had done lentils in my curry and chickpeas in my salad, then I would have needed to cook 2 different types of legumes. In this case, I'm saving a bunch of time by just doubling up the lentils. Back to the goals. One of the goals is to save money by meal prepping. Most of the meals that I created during the week took 10 minutes or less. In my extremely busy family, we could order out, which would cost a minimum of $50 for the 3 of us. But having ingredients prepped for a delicious meal that only takes 10 minutes to put together and actually tastes way better than anything from a restaurant, well, hell, that's a big money saver. And guess what? It would have taken longer to place the meal order and wait for the food than it took for me to make all of the meals. Once both the quinoa and lentils are cooked, I throw some corn on the cob on the stove. I can get very serious about corn on the cob. I used to live in Ohio and now Colorado. We take our corn very seriously in these states. I have a hard and fast rule about how long corn should be boiled, and that is a firm 5 minutes. Not less, not more. And it's perfect every single time, a bit crisp on the outside and juicy inside. I'm going to chop all of my raw ingredients. I think it's important to say that wet raw ingredients can sometimes get funky in the fridge. not a good funky. For example, although I'll be using some fresh tomatoes this week, I won't be cutting them until it's time to use them. They just don't do well in the fridge after being chopped, but a shallot, red peppers, cucumber, and mushrooms will all do well for 5 days. How long does this meal prep take? We've all seen the videos with creators claiming to meal prep a whole week's meals for under an hour. I feel a bit skeptical about this. Yeah, if you're very fast at chopping and are super organized, maybe it's possible to meal prep for a whole week in an hour, if you have help. It's hard for me to say how long this took. Honestly, the original prep filming took me 4 hours. If I cut out all of the filming aspects, perhaps this was an hour, maybe it was an hour and a half. Either way, it does save a ton of time during the week, which is the main point, isn't it? Now I'm moving on to the very important sauces. One simple way to elevate your meals is to add a sauce, and they don't have to be high in calories or oil or salt. I'm starting with ranch dressing. Let me tell you that this ranch dressing is very fantastic. Ever since I perfected this recipe, we've had it on hand almost every day. It's good not just on a salad or for dipping nuggets. It's great on a baked potato or for dipping in a taco. There's so many ways to use ranch dressing. Yes, I use sour cream in the ranch dressing. Yes, it's vegan. The one that I use is made from white beans and oats, so I'm a big fan. I highly recommend that you give this recipe a try. The recipe for the sauces are in the description box below.
If you like this content, please subscribe. It's free, and I can't grow without you.
The next dressing is a lemon dressing. It's simple to make and has a fantastic flavor. I've used this on salads, and this week I'm using it in our highly nutritious and delicious Quinoa Bowl. If you'd like to see some ways that I use sauces and dressings in my meals, check out my Instagram page. It's where I'm most active, and I love to chat with other people who love great food. I have a link to my Instagram page in the description box. And finally, a peanut sauce. I'm really just throwing this together like I often do. Again, recipe below. You know, before I started this channel, I rarely wrote down a recipe. I guess I just cook like one of the old grannies who just physically knows how much of something to use without measuring. It's awesome for me, but not awesome for anybody else who wants to make what I make. All of these sauces are very easy to make and really elevate our meals. The tofu, corn, quinoa, and lentils have all cooled a bit and go into the fridge. Now onto the meals. The first meal I'm making is a hearty salad. I like to keep some pre-washed greens on hand. Alternatively, you could buy whatever greens you like, wash it, chop it up, keep it in a container with paper towels to absorb any extra moisture. I generally like to have a couple of protein sources in each meal, and salad is no exception. So I'm microwaving some frozen peas for the salad. I'm throwing in cucumbers, mushrooms, and red peppers, and now tofu goes into the microwave. And those are the two protein sources. Peas and tofu. And I love a salad with warm ingredients, so the peas and tofu are also going to be warm. I've chopped a fresh tomato and all the ingredients go in with the greens along with some ranch dressing, which I needed to thin out after being refrigerated. I've topped the salad with some vegan feta and sunflower seeds. This hearty salad is delicious and took about 5 minutes to prepare. The next meal is a quinoa bowl. This is one of my favorite meals. It's super healthy and really flavorful. Into a bowl, I add the quinoa and some lentils. Sweet potatoes and tofu go in. Now I'm adding arugula and the lemon dressing. I add a freshly chopped tomato, some of the vegan feta, and chopped green onions. I'd say this quinoa bowl is a high-protein powerhouse of flavor. And it can be served either hot or cold, which is really nice in the summer. The third meal I'm making is a peanut noodle dish. I soaked and drained rice noodles. To that, I'm adding some of the tempeh that has been chopped into smaller pieces and some of the microwaved peas. Some shallots go in along with red peppers. I had some cabbage leaves from my garden that I chopped into slivers and added the peanut sauce. I topped the noodle dish with cilantro, chopped peanuts, and green onions. I should have added sliced hot peppers to the top to make this spicy. Oh well. Anyways, this dish tastes great either hot or cold. I actually really love that I'm not cooking throughout the week, just assembling and microwaving, mostly. This dish also took about 5 minutes to assemble, and it tastes so good. The fourth meal is barbecue tempeh sandwiches with corn on the cob. I start by microwaving the tempeh. I toasted the buns and spread on ranch dressing. By the way, have you noticed that the evening meals have almost no extra dishes to wash? Just usually one prep bowl and one serving bowl. So this is another time saver. I added arugula, the tempeh, and extra barbecue sauce. A perfect addition to these sandwiches is jalapeno slices. This dish was so very easy to put together, probably took 3 minutes, and was simply fulfilling and delicious. The final dish is a lentil curry. This is the only meal that I'm actually cooking for the week. I started by sauteing the shallots. I threw in some ginger, garlic, and finely chopped chilies. A lot of seasonings go in because it's curry. I'll link the recipe that I very loosely followed in the description box. Tomatoes, sweet potatoes, and lentils go into the pot. I definitely should have used a bigger pot here. I added a can of coconut milk and some spinach, and I topped with some cilantro and a squeeze of lemon. This dish took me about 15 minutes to pull together. I make a lot of curry dishes, and it's rare that they take less than 45 minutes, so I'm pretty pleased about a 15-minute curry dish that's also super delicious and nutritious. And this was a great way to end the meal prep week. By the way, I served the curry on rice because I accidentally used all the quinoa in the quinoa bowl and forgot to save some for the curry. Oh well.
If you want to learn how to make delicious plant-based dressings, watch this. See me going crazy.